The following program is to provide entertainment and information. It is not considered to be any legal or investment advice. Good morning, appraisers. Let's talk some real estate. You're listening to the voice of Appraisal, the #1 appraisal podcast in America that brings you the latest information from the front lines of the real estate market. Anything from market conditions, appraisal regulations, cryptocurrency, New York news. Folks, you have a question, we have all of the answers. We are your one-stop source for all of your real estate appraisal information needs. If you want to be in the know, you have definitely tuned in to the right show. I'm your host, Phil Crawford. Happy to have all of us here with us today. Kevin is with us again. Of course, his microphone.
No,
why is it out again? I don't understand it.
I'm still in timeout.
Why it's not? All right, so Kevin's microphone's not working again today, but that's all right. We wanted to cover some stuff. I told you we were going to have a show in 2 weeks, but this is too important. So I had to get out and get down here. Also, I do know that all my son's baseball games are rained out this weekend, so it does open up some space for me. But I wanted to cover what was going on in New York State with this AMC law. But first, a little bit of macroeconomic news. As most of you know, the unemployment numbers are out. I'll hit all of this in the most recent Crawford report that will be out next week. But it looks like the unemployment numbers are really good. The issue I always look at is what is the labor participation rate between the workers of 25 to 55 years old. And that does appear to be pretty high as well. But those are the people that are out there spending money. So we do want to keep an eye on all of that stuff. Also, very disturbing. Probably one of the most disturbing financial articles I have ever read in the last couple of weeks. Listen to this, guys.
Wait a minute. It's a disturbing article, and it doesn't have to do with Coast.
It's the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in a while that has nothing to do with Brian Coaster. You're bad. You know that, Kevin? Just, you know what? That's it. You're in timeout. No more for you. And listen to this thing. It says, baby boomer student debt outpaces all other generations. According to the Guardian report, baby boomers experienced a 72% increase in student loan debt over the last 5 years, the largest increase in any generation. Baby boomers went back to school. They got some additional education. It says here, in addition to borrowing, many parents have also spent their retirement savings and depleted their emergency funds to pay for the child's college education. As a result, many baby boomers fear that they will be unable to maintain their lifestyle during retirement and or afford adequate health insurance. Also, Kevin, remember, if they for some reason default on their student loan, America's got a dystopian student loan default policy. It's bullshit is what it is. Education is a product like anything else. And if you don't get a good product, if you get a lemon, I think there should be lemon law when it comes to college degrees. I personally believe that. I really do. But if they default on these, you can't go bankrupt on a student loan. So they will garnish the Social Security payments that they get. Now, you know that we're coming up to a Social Security crisis in this country. I think as it stands right now, a great majority of the baby boomers are 64 years old this year. So if they take Social Security at 65, if these baby boomers start to default and the defaults end up going higher and higher in that generation, they're going to have garnishments. They're not going to be able to afford retirement. They've already spent their retirement money trying to get their kids through school. They put themselves through school for a little bit. Is anybody out there learning a damn thing? This is just ridiculous, and they're paying money for it, and you're putting this on top of a retirement crisis? This is insane. I've told you on this show so many times. You get me all fired up. Now you get me all fired up. I've told you on this show 100 times that the freaking country is broke, that there's no more money. It's just ridiculous. So now you're taking these baby boomers who went back to school to try to get a higher education, to try to better themselves and to make more money. Now they're not going to be able to afford the student loans. You're going to garnish their Social Security payments?
Didn't they say a while back, though, Phil, a long time ago, didn't they say something about possibly forgiving student loans?
I think that's the Bernie Sanders side, isn't it? Yeah, that's the socialist side, is what they're saying. You know, we're going to forgive the student loans. And that's a great point you bring up. That's a freaking awesome point. Because when you bring up the socialist platform, I mean, remember, we're not going to get political here. All of you know that I am an Austrian economic guy. All of you know that. And there's not a single damn person in Washington, D.C. right now that is an Austrian. So I'm just going to lay it out there right now. I'm a Bitcoin, gold, silver, United States note guy. Okay, that's what I am. You all know that. You've been listening to me long enough. But I'll tell you something. When it comes to the socialist platform, if they come out and say we want to forgive student loans, who is the largest voting bloc in this country? It's the baby boomers, soon to be retired baby boomers. They vote. They vote. And if someone comes up to them and says, look, you know what? We're going to maintain your Social Security payment, number one, and we're going to forgive the student loans that you have because I'm going to garnish your wages. Folks, just look at it that way. If you want to see what's happening here, they took out all these student loans and they have to get them garnished on their Social Security payments. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Anyways, you got me off on that tangent. That's something for you to share with all your clients, for those of you that are doing home valuation consultations. Speaking of home valuation consultations, to all of you that are representatives of GetMyTrueValue.com, we've got a special presentation that we'll be doing for all of you on the private side of the Facebook group. So make sure that you get signed up on that, on the private side of the Facebook group of GetMyTrueValue.com. And speaking of retirement, for all of you out there that are baby boomers, that are baby boomer appraisers, and you're thinking about retirement, maybe you're going to retire, well, we've got some news and information for you. Let's get into the AMC law that just came out from the great state of New York. And for any of you that wants to get kind of an overview of it, you can go to Jonathan Miller's Matrix blog. He put this information out and did an excellent job explaining what was going on with the AMC law. This has caused some issues in the AMC world, but I'm going to give my take on it. This article is also on appraiserblogs.com. It's appraisersblogs.com. If you'd like to go there and check it out as well. Lots of comments as well. But here's the situation. Number one, the AMC law appears to be requiring that 2 invoices are included when a appraisal is delivered to a lender. So, for instance, there's the invoice from the AMC, which is a certain amount of money, and then there's the appraiser's invoice. I guess how this works now in New York is that when the appraiser submits their appraisal to the appraisal management company, the appraiser's invoice should be in there. Everybody has to know what's going on. The entire process should be transparent, simple and easy as that. Would I like to see them separated on the HUD-1 statement all the way across the country nationwide? Sure, I'd like to see the appraisal management company fee and the appraiser's fee separated, but that's not going to happen. So what New York did is they made it so that the appraiser's invoice had to be in the submission. Now, I know a lot of you out there are talking with AMCs and things like that, and the AMCs are probably working with their software programs to make sure that that invoice is not stripped out of it as it goes off to the lender. And then that way the consumer can really look and find out what the appraisal management company charged and, of course, what the appraiser was paid. Now, I know a lot of you have that similar type of wording in your states as well, but it's not the invoice. It's just the statement that needs to be made or buried in the report somewhere that the appraiser was paid this much money. And, of course, I don't think the appraiser knows what the AMCs charge. I have a sneaky feeling that the rural county smorgasbord of rural county fees that the AMCs were enjoying for a long time, probably going to be coming to an end pretty soon. I have a sneaky feeling that if a property is in a rural county, this is going to have a higher appraisal fee. But at the same time, the AMCs have been in the past saying, well, there's a shortage in this area. And I'm sure those fees on the AMC side are getting higher and higher. I'm not going to use the word price gouging. I'm not going to say it, Kevin. I'm not saying price gouging.
So basically, they're going to go from feast to famine.
In the rural counties, there could be a little famine. Because, see, here's the thing about it. If the difference between what the AMC charges and the appraisal charges, in my personal opinion, is, say, less than $200. In my personal opinion, I don't know this, I don't think a consumer is going to lose their crap. I really don't. Because, I think they're going to absorb the $200. I really do. Just me, you, not just I talking. But if you get in these rural counties where an appraisal fee is going to be a certain dollar amount, and then the appraisal management company's fee is like hundreds or thousands of dollars more, look, dude, that is going to literally and figuratively piss off that consumer on a level you've never seen before. The loan officer is going to get an earful on it. So I do think there is going to be some ramifications when it comes to that. Remember, New York State is not all just New York City. That's where everything happens. That's where Jonathan Miller is, and that's where all the parties are, right? But not everything just happens in New York, and there are some rural areas. And I'm sure there's some appraisers out there that do cover those rural areas and demand a higher fee. But if the AMCs have been using that as a gravy train to say, okay, well, here's some we can make money on, that's probably going to come to an end. Okay, so that's the whole thing when it comes to New York's law in the fee situation and the invoice. Now, I'm going to have Becky Jones on the show, I think, next week to discuss this in further detail. So that's one part of it. The next part of it that really does stand out to me, and this is very important. So if I go into the AMC law and I go to page number 5, line number 41, this is a game changer for the state of New York and can possibly be a game changer for the entire nation. So I'm going to read it out to you. Here we go. An appraisal management company may not hire, employ, or engage, or in any way contract with or pay a person who is not a licensed or certified as a real estate appraiser by the department pursuant to Article 6E of this chapter. unless the work being performed is a comparative market analysis for the purpose of the intention to list or sell the real estate. In other words, what this means is that BPOs and hybrid products cannot be ordered through an AMC in the state of New York unless that assignment is given to a real estate appraiser. So in other words, the BPO factory that the AMCs have in the state of New York as an income stream appears to have come to an end.
So basically what you're saying is the BPO is SOL.
The BPO business is SOL in the state of New York. Very good, Kevin. Very good. See, this is good stuff. It's true because, remember, they're not outlawing the use of BPOs. You can have a BPO done, a bank can have it done, but they have to order it directly. They cannot order those kind of products through an appraisal management company. And the state of New York, I'm sure, is one of those very big, high-volume states when it comes to these AMCs. So all that BPO business either has two ways to go. Number one, it's direct order from the lender, or number two, it's sent to an appraiser. So if they have a BPO order and it's ordered through the AMC, given the rules and regulations of New York, has no choice but to send it to an appraiser. Now, I want you to also think about something else. This is where the hybrids come in. Kevin and I talked about last week, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this with Becky, about the real estate agents going inside of the property to do the inspections. Now, we've got some certain rules and regulations that took place here in Ohio just recently. I'm going to bring that up on the next show as well. So we have real estate agents going inside of the properties. And I've always told you, that's trouble. That's trouble. You don't start sending real estate agents inside of properties to do what appraisers do. You send appraisers and you send appraiser trainees inside these properties to have the job done the right way. But now with these hybrids, when it comes to the interior inspection on the hybrid, I firmly believe, Kevin, that work will go to real estate appraisers in the state of New York. Now, some of you are going to be like, well, that's just ridiculous because no appraiser is going to do it. Now, hold on a second here. We have an issue here when it comes to a retirement crisis. And there's a lot of appraisers out there that are in that retirement range, or they're thinking about kind of hanging up their jersey a little bit, but they still like doing some parts of the job. I myself am a very balanced appraiser. I like going out in the field for a few days a week, and I like sitting behind my desk for a few days a week. But if I was out in the field all the time, that would kind of drive me crazy. And if I was behind my desk all day long for 5 days straight, I'd be insane. You'll be kidding me. And remember also, guys, I'm a real estate investor and I'm a flipper. So when I'm out in the field, not only am I focusing in on my subject property and the comparables, I'm focusing in on all the different market areas throughout Cincinnati because I've bought and sold in a lot of them. So I have a different set of eyes than most appraisers do. But that being said, getting back to what we're talking about, you do have a lot of appraisers out there that are looking at retirement or possible retirement. And they may like to do the inspection side of a job more than they would like to do the paperwork side of it. Matter of fact, some appraisers out there be like, I'd love to go do inspections all day long, just as long as I don't deal with the UAD crap and everything else like that. So I don't know if you guys remember or not, but Jeff Bradford from Bradford Technologies, who's not a sponsor on the show, but I'll give him a plug too. Why not? We give everybody plugs on this show. No problem at all. We gave Brian one last week, remember? Appraiser e-learning. Yeah, God, there I learn how to measure a house. That's what it is. Measure a house. But we gave him a plug. Jeff Bradford came out with a recent article that said that appraisers should work as teams. So if you're going to bifurcate, you should work as a nice team. The way I look at this is if you've got a group of appraisers out there that are looking at possible retirement, looking at slowing down, but they still like to do that specific part of the job, I think that's a good way to keep them busy, to keep work coming their way. Because remember, last week we discussed the Fannie Mae platform and how it works. See, when Fannie Mae looks at the data first, because they think they can appraise every frickin' property in this entire country because of the Chuck collateral underwriter, and the 1004 P form, the pilot, the P form. That's all you got to come up with modernization is the P form. That's it. That's all you came up with, the P form. That's all you got. Go in there and change your certifications around a little bit, and that's what goes for modernization in this world. Anyways, they have the P form. So if they don't do a PIW, then they take their P form and they take all the data and information they have, and they have somebody go out to the property and inspect it. Now, that somebody has been real estate agents. They're going inside the property. Problem. But what if they can now send appraisers out to the property to do that inspection. I think it's a great income stream for those that are getting into the retirement age to say, you know what, I may want to do that instead. Not bad. And you know what? Also, you've got an appraiser with their experienced eyes in that property. And I think that'd be a better product, Fannie Mae, for what you're dealing with than having an agent do it that doesn't have that specific skill set. That's the big difference there. So I look at that as a positive thing. So I'm going to look at all these different angles. I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, they're not paying enough. They're not paying. Look, the fees will work themselves out. The market always works itself out. And quit discussing fees, too. You're going to get into some antitrust issues. But that's fine. I think this is a good thing. Now, also, we always talk about there being a shortage of appraisers. You know, this is propaganda, that there's a shortage of appraisers. And it is propaganda because I myself have a millennial appraiser that works for me. And she's awesome and very aggressive at what she does. And she's very ambitious. So we do have a group of millennials out there that are thinking about getting into the appraisal profession. Well, how do we train them? How do we get them enough hours? Well, folks, this is another way to bring on more and more trainees. Remember, there's a certain skill set. So there's a certain time when you're training somebody, Kevin, and this is kind of interesting, actually. It's different because you have two different trainees. You have trainees that have blood. It's like a DNA, so their dad's an appraiser, their mom's an appraiser, something like that.
Like you.
Like me. So you grew up with it, so you understand it from the very beginning. And then there's other people out there that you have to train. They take a little bit longer to do because they don't have that appraiser DNA. But there is that moment of time. There is that moment of enlightenment when they say, oh, I get it. I understand it. And every appraiser that's trained somebody knows that. So when we bring on a trainee, we start them out at a certain skill set, but when we take them to the skill set where we can trust them to go inside of a property and correctly measure the house and do those things, well, then that's when you sit there as a business owner and say, now, how am I going to feed this person? How am I going to support this person? I don't want to lose them. They're an awesome trainee. I don't want them to get their license and then go in competition against me because I want them to stay with me. So how do I do it? How do I keep them fed? How do I get the hours? Because I still believe in the 2-year requirement for experience hours. I disagree with the Appraisal Foundation's decision to loosen standards on getting your appraiser's license. It's a tough job. It's not easy, and you haven't seen anything in 2 years, let alone 1 year for that matter. So here's the deal. I need to feed this person. Where do I find work? Get their skill set up to where it needs to be, have that person connected to the appraiser, and let them go out and do the appraisal inspections for Fannie Mae. I think it's great. I'm looking at this whole thing, and people are like, well, you don't pay them. The fees will work themselves out. We can repopulate our species much easier if we have work coming in. And because of the great state of New York is saying, hey, look, if you send out an order, period, maybe it's for a hybrid, maybe it's for a BPO, it's got to go to an appraiser. That's the way it works. Then I think this opens up an entirely different income stream for real estate appraisers. I really do. Now, if banks want to go and say, hey, look, we want to order BPOs or we want to order a hybrid, fine. The bank can directly engage anybody they want to under New York law. But if they're going to run it through an appraisal management company, it has to be ordered with an appraiser. Now, that's kind of the interesting thing, too. Remember, the word appraisal management company, New York has made them stand up to what their name is. You're there to manage appraisals, not BPOs, not valuations or evaluations or anything else. Your job is there to manage the appraisals, not other things. So it does make me ponder with everything going on with these retirees and the retiring appraisers and everything going on with the younger generation trying to get in, this whole hybrid world could open up a nice new income stream for both the older appraisers and the younger appraisers just getting into the business. And that's the way I see it shaking down at the moment. Now, one other thing here really quick. Now, remember, we had that Fannie Mae progression. We talked about the progression. They start out with a PIW, a piston in the wind, appraisal waiver. They start out with that. And then they go into, okay, well, we'll have somebody go out to the property, all the way down to actually have the appraisal being done. Here's the issue. And I think this is something that is going to permeate most of the mortgage industry for the next, I'd say, 5 years. There's going to be a lot of fee compression, not only from the appraiser's side, which I think it's pretty much maxed out as far as fee compression is concerned, but you're going to see it from the agent's side too. Because the agents are freaking out over Zillow aggression. We're going to call it Zillow aggression. Zillow aggression is freaking out real estate agents all across the country, those that are intelligent and knowledgeable and know what's going on. Because we discussed the for sale by owner program that Zillow had last week. And my big question is this, for all of you that use the MLS, your local multiple listing service, to pull your comparables and things like that, we got to get down deep and heavy into more and more data, because what happens if Zillow's FSBO, because of Richard Barton taking over and as he destroyed every single Expedia travel agent out there, if he goes and becomes 20% or 30% of the market share of transactions, they will not show up on your MLS. You're going to have to go someplace else to find that data, and that data source has got to be pretty damn good, number one. And number two, if it's a FSBO, who are you going to call about concessions? Who are you going to call about everything else as far as that's concerned? And who are you going to call to find out if there was even a property inspection waiver? This is insane.
Ghostbusters?
Oh, you're going to call you're going to call Ghostbusters. Yeah, because that data will be like a ghost. You don't know. That's right. Data Ghostbusters. That's what we'll call that. Data Ghostbusters. It's true. Actually, that's it, Kevin. You'll have ghost data. It'll be ghost data from Zillow. So you see, as I see this all coming together and rolling out, I see the need for the real estate appraiser and the process of which we do. I see that need more and more because of all the data and the bifurcation and the data pollution that's going to be out there and the Zillow aggression. You're really going to need to have that appraiser to research everything, to really know what's going on, and we need help, which means we got to bring on trainees, new people, new blood. And as fee compression starts to happen more and more and more, lenders are going to be in greater competition with each other, and the closing costs are going to get lower. As a matter of fact, here in Cincinnati, the banks, they battle each other a lot when it comes to closing costs. And I think because of the AMC rules and regulations that have taken place throughout all of the states, I think the cost of doing business for the AMC model is too great. And I think the only way that they can stay in business is if they have this huge, gigantic additional fee on top of the appraiser's fee, and that isn't going to work anymore. That isn't going to work. As a matter of fact, I do believe that it is too expensive. The banks will say, you know what? We are saving money because we are outsourcing all of our appraisal underwriting and appraisal ordering to an AMC. So that saves us all of that payroll. That saves us all of that money and that expense. But at the same time, we are also losing clients and we are losing loans and we're losing deals because our closing costs are too damn high. That's the snake eating its tail that's probably going to happen over the course of the next 1 or 2 years. The banks will have to make a decision. Do we outsource our appraisal process to save money on overhead? Or by doing that, does that cost us the ability to bring in additional revenue by making more and more loans? These are big questions that the banks are going to have to answer. And I think with all the rules and regulations that are in place, I do firmly believe that the banks are going to say, you know what, we need to bring all of this back in-house again. That's what we need to do. Whatever the appraiser needs to be paid, whatever their fee is, that's the fee. And let's look at turnaround time. Let's look at quality. And let's go to the appraisers and maybe say, look, in order to be competitive in our marketing area, this is what we're looking at. And I think appraisers would work with banks on that all day long. I'm sure they would. They're business people. They would do that. So you're starting to see that. And also another thing, the AMC space could get a tad bit dirty over the course of the next 2 or 3 years because of all these rules and regulations. It's like any other business. When you stick them in a corner and they become sort of like that caged lion or that cornered lion, they're going to get aggressive and be like, they don't want to die. It's just a natural human instinct. It's a natural business instinct that you don't want to go out of business, right? You want to survive. So they're going to get nasty a little bit. And if they do, then the space may get a little bit dirty and the banks will say, you know what, we don't want to have all of this liability in this particular space. So I think several things are going on. And it's all because of what happened in New York. I know a lot of people are focusing on these double invoices. And to a certain amount, I think some consumers out there would be extremely upset about it if the range was large when it comes to what the appraisal management company's fee was and what the consumer's fee was. But the big issue here is the fact that an appraisal management company must order products from appraisers. Simple and as easy as that. And by doing that, that opens up all these different avenues for real estate appraisers. Lots of things. I know that this bill is going to create some issues. I know there's going to be a lot of follow-up questions or frequently asked questions, FAQs, that are going to back it up. I do know for a fact right now that they're probably going to change the wording that if it's a maintenance product, I think it'll be okay to be ordered through the AMC. So a maintenance product would be something like a BPO for portfolio management, or maybe even for REO. I'm not really sure about that one or not. I think REO or pre-foreclosure drive-by, I think that would be considered to be maintenance under a bank's portfolio. So I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. But when it comes to the hybrid products, when it comes to the hybrid appraisals and the BPOs being used on the origination side for refinances and especially for purchases, that is done in New York, is what it looks like to me. I'm saying good for it. I don't think a PIW and I don't think a hybrid should be done on a purchase anyways. That's against consumer protection, and I think that's against the public trust. I think hybrid products used correctly under the right risk assessment, under the right application are just fine, but driving them into that position, I don't think so. So I don't know, Kevin, what do you think? I think the tiered nature of Fannie Mae, the tiered structure that Fannie Mae has, that when they'll do the PIW first, and then they'll do this, and they'll do that, and then they'll order the inspection, then they'll do this, and it goes all the way down to the very end where the appraisal is ordered. I think that honestly, probably in most cases, you're probably going to take out the middle tier products, and it's just going to be basically PIW or inspection done by an appraiser, or just order the appraisal. Just order the appraisal, and let's go in that direction. So that's New York. That's New York. New York. New York, yeah. There he is, Frankie Sinatra in New York. You know, and the whole ironic part of it all, of this entire situation, is that the AMC bill was signed into law by Governor Cuomo. The HVCC guy signs this into law, and actually, I think a positive thing for appraisers. Now, some people out there are saying it's a negative thing for appraisers. I know that Danny Wiley just recently was out there saying it's negative. I think he called it the 1004 Protection Act or something along those lines. We shall see. We shall see how things roll out over time. But as a business person, I don't know. I think it could be a good thing for the current demographic situation that we're facing in the appraisal profession. So those are my 2 cents on the matter, and that's where we are at on it, okay? Becky Jones from the New York Appraisers Coalition will be joining me next week to discuss this in detail even more. And then I think we're going to have Jonathan Miller on very soon to discuss it as well. If this bleeds into other state law and state regulations, I'm sure it will. I'll discuss what's going on in Ohio with Becky. The National Association of Realtors and the Ohio Realtors Association laid the hammer down this year when it comes to who enters into houses in Ohio. I mean, it was a very serious thing. And I think that hammer may hit down in Ohio next, but we'll have to find out. That'd be more work for appraisers and appraisers' assistants. So interesting stuff, guys. Also, for those of you that are members of GetMyTrueValue.com, very, very, very important information that we will be putting out in the group. So if you haven't joined GetMyTrueValue.com, and then also go to the GetMyTrueValue.com private Facebook page, and Lori Noble and I will be putting out all the information that we've got about the representative network and the budget that we have and where all the advertising money is going to be spent over the course of 2019 and into 2020. So good times, exciting times for appraisers, and let's see how everything just pans out. So ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show for this week, and as always, I would like to thank you for listening. As we journey through the mysteries and complexities that are, in fact, the real estate appraisal business, I would like to thank my producer, Kevin Kinney, for being here for his thoughtful insight and knowledge. God willing, we'll go back here very soon, continuing to report from the front lines of the real estate market. In the meantime, you kiss your spouse, you hug your children, enjoy your day, be safe in the field. You've been listening to Phil Crawford on Voice of Appraisal. We'll talk very soon.